Welcome to Deadhaus Whispers.
Greetings, everyone. I am Calypso, and welcome to another episode of Deadhaus Whispers. I was super jamming out to that intro. I might use that for our ending song today. But like always, I am joined by my other host, Faceless Mike.
Greetings, hello, and welcome.
Yes,
and what
hello,
are we
hello, everyone.
And what are we discussing today, Calypso?
Well, we are discussing the sauce of everything.
Sauce,
Deadhaus.
please. Sauce.
Yes, we are.
Sorry, Reddit made me very, very cynical.
The source part 1 and part 2. So this might be. These are probably the longest notes I've taken ever, I think. For these, yeah, this was like this felt like I was back in college taking notes for like a final exam or something. This was a lot. This will be probably a really long episode. As far as post-production goes, people, if you are watching this later, I highly doubt that my editor self will throw in all of this crap because there's way too much. Like we say this every episode, go watch them, but this is the episodes part 1 and part 2 of The Source that arguably you should just watch because it's literally Cabo Foster and his velvet voice reading telling the greatest campfire story ever, almost.
It's
like mythical proportion.
It's going to very much be how would you put it, like a massive lore dump.
Yeah, huge lore dump. Varric definitely. I read Varric's comments in this on the YouTube video. He loved this episode, so way to go, Varric.
Do this, and we can start with a little bit of discussion on this then. Bear with me. I'm doing all the crazy stuff in the background.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just start it off. So the source picks up directly after Alaric and oh my gosh, I forgot the Lich's name. Amarax. Alaric and Amarax got done. I know, right? Got done fighting an angel, or at least getting destroyed by an angel almost. And then our wonderful feted prince finally shows up, and we in a badass dragon form. And he asks the feted prince, "Yo, what's up? What's up with all this, dude? Tell me the story." And then we get the longest story ever, the greatest story ever told, some would say. And we start off with the month of Lau.
Take to begin this entry with the month and year of the Thasian calendar. For we who called this the month of Lau did so only for some 200 years. In Ustilian, it was Mensis Laudis, and it bore that name for millennia. So too does my designation of the year ring hollow as of late. 221 years after Deadhaus. So much of Thasia's identity was formed from its struggle against the dead. In this struggle, we forsook our ancestors and their ways, as we believe that they forsook us. But much was lost in abandoning the past. Our God, our heritage, perhaps even our very souls.
That we get some more Ustilian calendar like background, because Thasia was built on the back of Ustilia. So much of Thasia's identity struggles against the Forsaken God heritage and the souls of Ustilia. Greetings. Amarax, what do I have here? Amarax asked the feted prince to grant them safe passage because an ascendant stands above the five. The five being the five rulers or council of Deadhaus.
Pentarchy.
The
word you're looking is Pentarchy.
Thank you. Yes. So an ascendant, aka Vampire Jesus, here stands above the freaking Pentarchy of Deadhaus. There's many questions but little time. But then there's nothing but time because they're undead. And then what manner of being can destroy an angel? The angel destroyed itself, according to the feted prince. The burning one is still alive because Alaric asked, well, what about the burning one? I totally watched you kill him hundreds and thousands of years ago. And he actually resides hiding or recuperating or asleep in the northern provinces.
He's away licking his wounds.
For thousands of years.
What are you? You take the form of a dragon. You gaze through layers of time. I sense no life in you. You sometimes move as mist, as I do, but darker. Are you a vampire?
You could call me that.
Is it part of the ritual that the dead must be obnoxiously cryptic?
Do you know of the gods?
Yes, Kiva told me of their prophecies.
The servants of the gods are many, as are their stations. I serve Alal Mat in the way that the Burning One serves El Sabaoth, or the leper serves the Dreamer as an ascendant.
And what is an ascendant?
One who is indwelled by an echo of their ancients' divinity.
You are a god, then?
No more than I am a vampire.
AKA Christ figures is what I have written here. So the power of a god. We are cursed, not even godhood can cure vampirism. So even though he is quite literally vampire Jesus, even being a Jesus figure doesn't stop you from being a vampire or another creature of the undead or anything else. Like the Burning One is basically an angel, I'm guessing, he's like that kind of blessed. The leper is basically one of the awakened, only the Jesus version of it, which he shows up here in this part one. The messenger suppressed the thirst. I don't know why I wrote that down.
It's Alaric brings that up. He says, well, the messenger was able to quell the thirst.
Oh, yes. That's right.
He made it go away.
When the angel, okay. And that all comes back around full circle. We'll figure that out. Why? Thanks for reminding me on that one. So yes, whenever Alaric is around the messenger's presence, aka the be not afraid, giant angel eyes, right? The blood is suppressed. Why? We figure that out. Why? What was the source? And we begin our story. And then, the fetid prince, I have nothing. He turned me fade. Okay, whatever.
Remember, I have nothing but time.
Yes, I have nothing but time. So according to all of this, we begin our story.
Yes.
Yes. The Red Lady. She is born of the blood. Sacred blood. She worships the blood. Burning blood. Her power flows from the blood. Stolen blood. She is bound by the blood. Profane the blood. Hail, Red Lady, O Mother of the First Moon. Free us from thirst. Accursed are your children.
Go to the Deadhaus YouTube, look up the blood chant. The blood chant is this Red Lady prayer in song form, but it sounds way cooler. We get that the Red Lady vanished long ago in search of a cure. Top of Mount Manubaku, which is so badass. I think naming things in fantasy, to go off on a little tangent for a second, naming things in fantasy and naming characters in fantasy, or anything for that matter, really, science fiction, pulp, whatever, is hard as nails. And coming up with cool names like Mount Manubaku is badass. Land of Temek.
Most people just end up, defaulting to Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, and there's no shame in it. People think it's it's really hard to do. There's no shame in not being able to do it. That's why there's 1,000 name generators online. Lord of the Rings name generator, Warhammer generator, Warhammer 40K, any D&D name. It's difficult to do. So actually coming up with these things, I think, is quite interesting, and the fact that. Shout out to Dennis and shout out to Jack for this. Coming up with these names and keeping them thematic to not only their region, but the era and culture they're from. So, there's a place in the western part of what they refer to as Thacia, in the northern kingdoms, is called Manubaku. That's clearly old. That was named not by them, but by previous people. Greetings, Varric.
Hey, Varric.
And while we're on to the difficult names, I just want to throw this out there because, hi, George, when you get to see this.
Yes. Hey,
hats
George.
off to George and Joey and Bo and everyone else that are doing the voices in this, because not only is the voice work hard, but pronouncing those names
Oh yeah, no, we'll get to it. Towards the ending of the source part 2, there's shout out, seriously, props to Bo for being able to pronounce that specific name. We'll get to it.
Well, it's his own name, you know.
Well, yes. But like it's like immediately when he said that, my brain had PTSD for trying to say Ticlac.
Tlaquitlex.
What is it?
Tlaquitlex.
Tlaquitlex.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Tlaquitlex.
Tlaquitlex.
Okay.
Tlaquitlex.
It's
I'll
like
work with him
salad.
behind the scenes. By the
Yeah.
next Whispers, he will be saying it properly. Elocution lessons from beyond the grave. Here we go.
Yes.
Tlaquitlex. The shattered, whose house is the others. They will arrive in time.
So yes, props to all those. Like I love the names. I've been reading old pulp stuff for the past couple of like months. I've just been on my Lovecraft binge like usual, and old pulp stories, and it really boils my blood that so many like generic ass names in fantasy, like Jack and Sam, and like all, you know, even if it's fantasy, they're named like Bob or Steve, right? So,
Hi, I am the great hero of the West, Trent.
Yes, exactly. So I'm reading The Shadow, which is fantastic. Please, everybody, if you want to get into old
as
pulp
in
stuff,
The Shadow? Like The Shadow?
The Shadow, like
I love The Shadow,
the 30s
man.
pulp, the 90 movie with Alec Baldwin, The Shadow, right? There's two names in there.
A wee bit ahead. We're going to have to put this back.
Oh yeah, we totally did. There's two names in there that are fantastic names. Frederick Froman and Marcus Holtman. And I love those names. You know, it's like 1930s New York or whatever, so they're going to be regular names like Bob and Steve. But Frederick Froman just rolls right off the tongue, man.
I think it's also, again, like I was saying with the Temec thing, it shows the time and the place it is. Because today he'd just be Fred. But back then, people had more respect and referred to your full name, so it'd be Frederick.
Yeah, Frederick. Lamont Cranston, fantastic fucking name. Land of Temec, and like I do like Mount Manu Baku, Land of Temec, and
hey, look, I'm just impressed. And can we get a shout out here to Calypso? I'm just impressed that he hasn't gone thirsting over the Red Lady already yet.
What? I already want. My brain immediately popped in. I want my body pillow with the Red Lady. What are you talking about? The river, the Urateam, Urateam.
The Ureti.
The Ureti, and the
Urateam. They are called
river
Urateam because they worship it. It's the
Ureti.
The Ureti. There we go.
Yes, there we go. Like I love it. It immediately, because all of Deadhaus is based on, you know, here's this Egypt place, here's the Roman place, here's the Scottish Highlands or whatever within sort of Deadhaus. Like the geography makes sense for how the world is built. So Mount Manu Baku, Temec immediately gets me thinking of like ancient Peruvian people.
So the general South Americas.
Yeah. Top of Mount Manu Baku, Land of Temec, her last location of the Red Lady, the Shattered Wastes, where the Anai come from. 10,000+ years ago, Garden of Many Rivers, the Ureti River, carved from red clay of the first men, all were bathed on birth in the Ureti, and they worshipped the river. They were river like the river is God, the river is life, Mother Earth.
And now it's just a wretched desert of broken stone. 1,000 years ago, the land of Temec, the garden of many rivers, and every stream therein
flowed from the mighty Ureti. The peoples of Temec believed the first man was carved from red clay by its waters, and so they revered the Ureti as the first mother. All were bathed on the day of their birth in its waters, and each was returned to it in death, to flow westward to the nameless sea and pass beyond sight.
During the summer, farmers would travel to cast crops, merchants, coin. Women would listen to the river for the name of their like future love or who they were going to marry. They got married in the river. Like the river was their entire civilization and culture.
The culture totally worshipped the river.
Yeah, the river was their life and their god is what I have written down here. There were 5 city-states. For those of you old people like us who played the original Blood Omen, this immediately conjured the lost city hidden area to me in my brain. Am I crazy in thinking
No,
that?
no, I get you.
Like immediately, like, oh, you get transported to, the dawn of civilization or whatever. Only it's surrounded by werewolves and Blood Omen. We have 5 city-states, and they were known as the jewels of the Ureti because they were all thriving city-states. And then one mysterious day, red sails showed on the western horizon during a cold sea, foreshadowing doom.
Everything has clearly gotten out of hand now, yes. But it was worth the risk, I assure you.
The day of red sails came, no wind blew. Was strange for the villagers because a black ship with black twisted horns with black twisted horns and a red sail showed up upon the Urateam, the Ureti. Urateam River Priests and Council of Temek were the council, or whatever they were called. Is it time to sing the doom song? Robes of scales were snake priests. One priest.
I'm going to be very disappointed if I don't get this boat as an in-game way of.
Dude, oh man, I want the boat.
There we go. Look, we'll put it back there. We get this. There we go. Look at that.
Yeah, that's so sick. It's so sick.
The red sails came.
Robes of scale priests. One priest cradled an infant. The child must be an omen of death, they said. Give her to the first mother, aka drop her in the river. But then the child resurfaced because people float. Oh, wait, no. Coiled by a serpent. So you drop a baby in the river carried by this omen of death. And then all of a sudden, one of like the snake gods that you worship from the river raise this baby up. Prophecy foretold. Like total Jesus figure moment, Snakes rose along with the child, protecting the child. So the serpents that these river people worship as holy figures or something brought this drowned baby back from dying. It's a crazy vision.
Yeah, I love the idea that everyone else is kill it with fire, but they just said no, kill it with water.
Yeah, just right. The priests fell to their knees. One priest cradled the child. The will of the first mother revealed the child shall be raised in the river temple of Sephim. And then Marinth was the child's name.
And trying to not make jokes about throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
And they bathed her every day in the water, in this holy water. I have Grand Adar Garage. Go ahead.
Yeah, Grand Adar Garage. Yeah, Grand Adar Garage. They were the ones that selected and decided that she was going to join the Ura team because none of them would be able to take her. She wasn't like them. She was very pale skinned, so it was very strange to them.
Oh, so yes, it is noted
that everyone raised as like a priestess in their thing, and then he goes on to talk about the priesthood itself, which is very strange and weird.
Flogged. Oh yeah. So they had to shave their heads within the river and everything else like this. Where the priests, part of their religion was like if you were a priest, you shaved your head for like purity or something. I guess
all of it. You shaved your entire body. You wouldn't have
shaved your entire body. And you were flogged if you not shaved your head, and even if you missed a little bit of hair. So right now, my bald head, I'd be getting flogged right now because it's not perfectly shaven. My eyebrows aren't on. I have some stubble.
Yep. Yeah, not just their heads, their whole body.
Yeah, everything. So naked as the day you were born. Must not look upon. Oh yeah, and you have to constantly gaze downward. So regular citizens, and I think even priest members, you cannot look at the higher priest members. If you're a lower order of the priest,
with when they meet each other, they look at their feet. And then if they've no tattoos or whatever, they can slowly make their way up to like the hands and all like that until they meet their throat. And if they see the tattoos on their throat, they're able to denote rank. Yeah. And based on the rank, if someone was a higher ranking than you weren't allowed to look them in the eyes. You could only look down.
Yeah, and I have that right here. Must not look upon the order, feet first, gaze upon the throat to look at the markings to see if look at face or not. Yeah. So that's nuts. And I do like that, how that sort of ties into vampire mythology of the last thing you look at before you can actually gaze upon someone's face is their neck. Like the neck the cordial blood vein and everything is like your access to this person almost. And Marinth, unlike others with dark skin, dark hair, and dark eyes, she was pale, green-eyed, and everyone else was tan. There were rituals for every aspect of life. There were rituals for birth, death, life, food, birth. Did I say that already? Marriage, everything. And if you were, correct me if I'm wrong here, if I got this wrong. The priesthood, or is it every citizen, had to constantly poison themselves?
No, priesthood. Okay. So with the Ura team, they would, as part of their initiation, because they worshipped the river, they worshipped the river serpents and thought the river serpents were servants of the mother, their one mother. So as you can gather, it was all about snakes. So to be ordained into the priesthood and become officially one of them, trainees had to imbibe a whole chalice of poison from a mature river serpent. Now that'll kill anyone. 1 or 2 drops would kill anyone, right? Never mind any of the rest of it. As I said, 1 drop, what was it? 1 drop relieves pain, 2 drops puts you to sleep, a dreamless sleep. 3 drops means you'll never wake up. Right? That's how they describe the poison. So in preparation for this, in the years leading up to their trials, basically, to be ordained and all like that as a priest, they would practice by starting off putting a few drops in their food and of a young river serpent, and then build up to the point where when they had that, they felt no effects. They'd add more and more and more till they got to a point where they were drinking cups of it to wash down their food. And even at that, not all of them made it, because it was very special poison. Like, it was a mature river serpent as opposed to a younger one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they started with half a drop. That's it, Varric.
Yeah,
there's our lore master right there. We started with half a drop, and then they worked their way up over years in preparation. Marinth was one of the few that she barely even survived it, because even with doing all of that, she was writhing in the ground in agony.
So am I the only one, when listening to the whole poison thing, actually it makes it sound kind of yummy? like for one, in typical game fashion, I guess my brain defaulted to the color of poison was green.
It'd be a greeny yellowy color.
Yeah, greeny yellowy, but like for whatever reason, it's like my brain pictured like that Reanimator, like glowing yum green, like that. I don't know, dude. Something about that color just is delicious to me, I guess.
You lived in Florida long enough. You never seen snake venom? Did you ever see the guys?
No, I've never seen snake venom.
Snakes when they milk snakes. So to make snake,
I know it's
venom,
like a gross, like sickly yellow almost.
Yeah.
Thing.
So to make anti venom, you need to milk a snake, and what they do with the milk a snake with the poisonous ones is they have a jar with like a bit of plastic on it. Right, if you think like a glove or a condom or something like that, stretched over it, and then they get the snake to open its mouth, and they like kind of push down and massage the back of its head, and the blood. Do you hear me? The venom comes out of the fangs, and then that's how they milk it, and then from that they make anti-venom and all like that. And it is, depending on the snake, it can be anything from a milky white to, like you said, a sickly yellow.
Yeah, like a sickly yellow. I don't know, man. When I was picturing this, like. I imagined, I don't know why. I guess maybe because my brain, it totally just defaults to Blood Omen, even though Deadhaus is sort of gone beyond the Blood Omen connections in a way.
They're river serpents. It could be green.
Yeah, it could be. My brain defaults to Blood Omen. So I immediately thought, when they're talking about, their ritual is poison, that the cups they drank from looked like the anti-toxin card from Blood Omen, with like the stick and the skull or whatever it is.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with the whole font of putrescence thing.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that too. Yeah, totally. Like whatever, I don't know, some sort of weird chalice that is font of putrescence or like the poison. I'll put it up on post. Don't worry. So you know what I'm talking about. For whatever reason, that's where my brain went. And then we'll get to it now, I guess. Is when Marinth was ready for her trial, she did the thing. She trained, forever long to do the poison, and she still almost failed. And then when she does basically almost die, she turns into mist. She's not a vampire or anything yet, but she still has the ability to turn into mist and is swept away from the temple in the river. So the river carry. Oh yeah, I should also mention when they do this ritual, they're in the river to do this, and because like if they die, then they're overrun by snakes, and the snakes take them back. It's a whole symbol of life thing.
Little hint for the lore hounds among them. It'll take Calypso a little bit to get this, so you'll all get a giggle.
Totally, yeah. Feel free to
Varric,
beat me up.
Varric will get it, but the rest of you can do your research and look through the previous episodes. There's a reason the boat had a ram's head.
Oh crap! I am gonna. Every single episode. Pause again. Every single episode, this happens. I think I'm caught up. I think I'm totally up to speed. Nope. There's some vague like crap that like Easter egg that Jack and Dennis just hid in there. It's the ship all over again, haunting us.
Well, who has the goat's head?
I don't know, man. I got.
Come on, Varric, you can help us out here. Who's got the goat's head?
Goat. Oh crap! The unknown. Shut up! No way. The unspoken. Varric got it. Yeah. Whoa. Okay. So
the nameless.
The nameless. Yes. Thank you. Not the unspoken. See again.
Isn't it funny? Because like if you go the other way, what was the name of the sea?
The Ureti?
No. The sea.
No, not the sea. I'm gonna have to pull up the. I don't know the name of the sea. The distance.
It gets brought up. It gets brought up later. The nameless sea.
The nameless sea. Oh,
anyone that went into the sea that tried to pass it, they'd forget their name and forget everything. Anyone that tried to cross the sea couldn't because they'd forget everything and they'd come back with absolutely no memory.
Yeah. This is for editor Nick. I'm doing this to edit myself here. This is your editing point to add all that crap in. Future me. I forgot face blue. Smiling. Yeah.
It's emoji.
Oh, it's an emoji. Years. Oh yeah. Okay. So okay. Back to the show. She tries. She almost dies. Swept away. Mist form. River. Whoosh. Years went by. And strange voices began to fill Temek, the Temekian people. And there were suicides and a bunch of sacrifices to the gods. But not, and this was all to quell the voices in their head. So years go by. She's gone. I think she's away from the people because she failed her test.
She was the witch in the woods. She was essentially the crazy witch in the woods that everyone is afraid of.
Yes. And years go by.
I'll skip us forward to that actually. Yeah, we're still talking here about the venom in this. You keep
going. They start. The people of Temek start to hear voices, and they try everything to stop this. So ritual sacrifices and everything to stop these voices in their heads.
Greetings, Tyre, saying, what is this live? We're discussing the most recent radio play from the upcoming game Deadhaus Sonata and the most recent episode of the lore videos called The Source.
Hello. Yes, part 1 and part 2.
Mm-hmm.
A stranger walked among the river people, a leper, and there was a prophecy of doom that this place will be destroyed and everybody should abandon the city. And of course, I don't think people listened to him, right? Oh, no, yeah, they threw stones at the leper. Some did. They threw stones at the leper.
That's an important one, though, Calypso. Who listened to him? A lot of people thought he was weird and threw stones at him and didn't want to have anything. But one group of people listened to him. Who listened to him?
I didn't. Oh, crap. I didn't write that down. Threw stones at the leper. Stranger leaves and ends up at the capital. So he goes to the capital of...
He goes to each one of the cities, but one group actually listened to him, the Anai.
The Anai. Oh.
And they took all the stuff and they noped out of there because they're like, yeah, we're going to listen to him. Here he is.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, that's such pause. That's such a pimp image. Like, that is so cool. And I love the details of the bandaging around his arm. Like, he's kind of flayed in the arms. But I just watched Kingdom of Heaven a couple days ago. And even though the leopard probably won't end up looking like this, my brain pictures a totally, like, baller-looking leopard dressed up like King Baldwin, only he's like all in red or something, and he's got a mask on, and the eyes are glowing from the mask covering his leprous face with a red hood. Just totally pimped out in red. I don't know why, but yeah, this is sick. And you can see the other people behind him who are already part of the Awakening.
You see the blood and muscle under the bandage there on his shoulder. Yeah, you can see the bandages go off, and you can see he's literally in pieces.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool. The Whispers. Oh yeah. So later on, Marith wanders the woods. You're right, Witch of the Woods, and it's been years now. She now has a mane of full red hair, flowing red, gorgeous hair. The Whispers from the Whispers that invade the city also invade her ears. And she sees visions. She looks into the water and she sees visions of her face melting, and it's like nightmarish. Her eyes just, and like her face is just totally like Indiana Jones ending melting face, I guess. And she turns into a wolf because she has magical powers. She turns into a wolf and runs. And when she's in wolf form, the Whispers don't stop, but they lessen and they deaden because wolves hear differently than humans. So she's able to sort of quell the Whispers a little, but they don't go away. And then she stumbles upon a woman with black hair, a bloody throat, and a white dress.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah,
that's Calypso's future ex-wife.
Yep, our two body pillows meet. And the Whispers, the Whispers, the woman in black, the woman in white with black hair and bloody throat. When you counsel kings, the Whispers will fade. So what does she do? She passes out and never wakes up, and the story's over. So she passes out, wakes up on the streams, and she fled to the forest to escape the Whispers again. The Whispers never ending of her name, Marinth. But she blocks them out in her wolf form. And she has dreams of the strange black ship with twisted horns that bore her to this place that started her life. Days later, exhausted, she stumbles to the gates of Sephim. And most were praying for protection in the temple to quell the Whispers. And the king had a cloak of crimson on the wall.
It says there they don't specify if the drowned girl is Kiva, but it could be. It's Kiva. I'm calling it.
Come on, yeah, I'm calling it too. We all know.
We've no evidence, but it's clearly Kiva.
I mean, it would be cool if it were another Banshee, but considering we were introduced to Kiva a couple episodes ago, it makes sense to sort of just run with her as the lead.
I think
lead
it does
Banshee
mention it later, whenever that's spoilers for later, but there's like Banshees and Kiva is one of them. The drowned girl was one of them.
Yes, the drowned girl is a killer title too. The king had a cloak of crimson on the wall. It kept the sails of the strange ship. See, now when I listened to that, even though it says it kept the crimson sails, red, apart from being blood or whatever, is the associated color now of the awakened. Crimson red is the associated color of the awakened at this point. So the question is, with Marinth and her red hair and the red sails, was she a member, or does she come from the race or the people of the awakened? Is she linked to them?
The awakened don't seem to have a people yet. That's the point. That's why the leper is going around doing his thing.
Because he's turning them into his people.
But with the sails, as they said, they brought the boat out. Look, that's clearly Kiva.
Yeah, that's
clearly Kiva. But when the boat came, they torched the boat and kept the sails and gave it to him as a gift, and he kept them on the wall. I'm assuming just because red is a rare color and large red sails, it's a sign of thing. You know the way, like in a lot of places, like purple would have been considered a royal color because it was rare and expensive. So it's probably something akin to that.
Yeah. Okay, good point. Marinth was safe at the temple. Marinth then tells the king her visions, and the voices magically stop because what did she do? She counseled kings. And everyone stops and everyone cheers. And it makes me wonder why. Like, what is the significance and what does her whispering into a king's ear? Oh, unless there's the whole manipulation factor or something.
Yes.
It should be noted. Did I write this down? She becomes
elder gods are playing chess, and this one was moving its pawn across the thing to be crowned a queen.
But
what we have all the stuff here is basically manipulation at play on behalf of all the rest of these guys, and it's very simple that Marinth was essentially maneuvered by the god of the dead into being put into a position where she would be able to facilitate things. So the first one, it seems like she was being groomed to be one of the Grand Adders. That didn't work out because she couldn't like deal with things properly. She couldn't deal with the poison and all like that. Natural instincts kicked in to like get her out of danger. And then it was only once she was out of danger, the god of the dead needed a different manipulation tactic to put her. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to have to drop one of the hard irons here and put down that everyone was going to suffer from this plague, so to speak. It couldn't do any particular plagues that would end up damaging anything. So what it done is basically whispers. So these whispers slowly drove everyone insane until it got its way. And it was a very easy way to kind of manipulate the situation into that, you know? They could manipulate it so that until Merenth done this prophecy, the Deadhaus Whispers would not stop.
Oh, that was a great line.
And it's almost like this has been written long ago and someone had a little insight into it when they named the podcast.
Okay, it makes me wonder if Merenth counseling the king and whispering it, by her countering the other guy there, because one of the head priests, whose name I mentioned,
Grand Adder Garage.
Thank you. If it makes me wonder if her counseling the king, apart from him, who might have been a manipulator and part of the awakened, maybe at this point, stopped the visions. So one counter to another. Do you think? Well, actually, you can't say anything because you know everything already. So, anyways, it makes me wonder that, and I guess we'll find out if I'm right or wrong or just crazy and spitballing theories here in my brain.
Well, basically, what I went over there when you were out was so the god of the dead was trying to groom her into being the Grand Adder so that it would have control over things. That didn't work out because her fight or flight kicked in with the poison and she kind of had her own thing. So she ran away. God of the dead, not happy, going, no, she needs to be in charge. We need to make her the queen so that she can do what I want her to do. And it pulled all the irons out and going, okay, I'm going to drop this one because it couldn't send an actual plague because, you know, there's no point killing everyone. You can't rule over nothing. So it basically tortured everyone with whispers. Basically whispers of the dead, so to speak, where everyone was driven mad until the prophecy was fulfilled.
Stars above.
That's literally what Kiva says about, you know, everything Kiva comes out with is essentially prophecy.
I think I wrote that down later on. I don't know why. She becomes counselor, lived in a palace of luxury, and there were no bad dreams. I should also mention that I mentioned she was suffering from nightmares or visions or whatever. What is this fair? Grand Adder would be more of a worshiper of Malorum.
As the already is known as the first Mother Nature.
Oh,
yes, in a roundabout way, yes. He didn't know that's what he was doing, but kind of, yeah.
Okay. She felt eyes on her one night, dripping water, dead girl Banshee, counsel from Banshee, droughts and plagues, tells King. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Literally that bit here. Here
okay, cool.
She's counseling the king. But perhaps the girl she'd seen was a river spirit offering her aid, right?
He named Merenth Counselor then, under threat of burning if her counsel failed. And all at once the whispers stopped. The king, who was deaf to them, did not notice. But soon the people of Sephim emerged from their homes, murmuring softly, then clamoring, then cheering in the streets at last. Merenth lived in the palace then, in luxury she had never known, and her dreams were undisturbed for a time, until she felt eyes upon her as she slept. In the black of moonless night, she woke to the sound of dripping water, and as she rolled to face it, she saw standing in the corner of her room the dead girl from the stream, her lifeless body dripping water on the floor. Merenth opened her mouth to scream, but the dead girl put a finger to her own lips, and Merenth's throat closed. She could not move as the dead girl crossed the room and stood at her bedside. An icy hand clutched Merenth's jaw and turned her head to face away from her oppressor, who knelt over her and whispered in her ear, dripping cold water upon her. And from the mouth of the dead girl, counsel was passed to Merenth to be given to the king.
It should also be noted that banshees mythologically, you're probably the expert on this, are signs of doom.
You can't
just shoot a hole into the surface of Mars.
Warning. Mars surface targeted. Safety mechanisms
Would you like me to
activated.
disable the safety protocols?
Droughts, plague, so doom, doom, doom. Marinth tells the king of treachery that other kingdoms will start wars. Other kingdoms will start wars, and the king's like, okay. And then Sabeth sent the burning one. So a kingdom sent their Jesus figure, the burning one.
Who is literally a Jesus figure, like
yes,
Zeus.
literally a Jesus figure. Sephim forces charged forward. So Sabeth sent the burning one, and then Sephim's forces charged forward to attack the burning one. Right? Marinth flees the battle. Advances.
Oh, you're getting ahead of your ahead of yourself. There's a lot of things called the braiding first. A lot of battles before we get to that, and they had won a lot of the battles.
I fast forwarded.
Temek was on the when the braiding began. Temek was
the braiding.
So the Anai city state was up for grabs because they buggered off, and all the other places were fighting over it, and then they started fighting each other, and then Temek was winning for quite a bit. It says here, as well as to abandon the city, Merit
peered from the tree line from a wolf's eyes. The foes of Sephim soon found themselves outflanked, their escape blocked at every turn. They were slain to the last man, and Sephim stood victorious. But then the city of Sabeth sent forth its army, and it was led by a towering figure draped in flowing robes of white, adorned with golden braces. His hair and beard flowed together as an ivory mane, framing a face set stern as stone, and eyes set aglow in fiery gold.
Marinth flees the battle. Advances? What?
That's because he basically put up his hand and grabbed lightning.
Oh yes,
and started throwing spears of legit lightning.
I have here the evil advisor blames Marinth. Garage, thank you. Garage blames Marinth to the king for all this crap. Oh, it's her fault. There's all these wars and stuff. She did it. Marinth revealed new gods. El Sabaoth, burning one, revealed new gods. Alalmat, the river temple converts to worship with some revolt. Oh yeah, okay. So Marinth reveals that there is a new god, Alalmat, and everybody should worship him because it's awesome.
Only with his help will they win.
Yes, and so only with the power of death, pretty much, will life be extinguished or something. And then some of them convert to worshiping immediately, and then some of them revolt, and then the ones who revolt, it's the whole Vlad the Impaler thing, I think, where they're killed and filleted alive and heads put on spikes and all this stuff, right?
That's getting into the start of the next episode.
Let's get into the start of the next episode. I'm jumping ahead, guys. Sorry. Marinth goes to the revolters. Time of the Euro team has passed, and she came to them as a conqueror. Okay, that's how it ends.
She goes back to the temple and basically said, "Hey, we're converting to a Lalmot now.
Yeah, if you don't follow me, you're dead.
If you want to come, you'll be spared. If you don't, you won't."
Marinth revealed that new gods had come to Temek, that the champion of Sabeth was called the Burning One, and that his power came from the god El Sabaoth. She revealed that the god who had given her visions, the one who sent what the king believed to be a river spirit, was named Alalmat, and that only through its worship could Sephim be delivered.
So all the young ones, all the young adders, quickly swap sides, no problem. And the old ones were bucking against this trend, and they were greatly outnumbered though. And the temples were soon taken over, and they were handed over really bloody fast.
Yep. It should be noted that all of this is to try to keep society alive and around.
Yeah.
This is all, this is literally just to preserve the Euro team, the Temekians. Yeah. This is all just to preserve that. This isn't, it seems harsh and stuff, and I guess in a way it is.
And so the king ordered that the river temple of Sephim be converted to the worship of Alalmat. The Ura team in Sephim revolted, but in the strife of the braiding, they could not rally the river temples of the other cities. They barricaded themselves inside their temple, but their resistance was brief. Marinth came to the temple and spoke to those on the other side of the barricade. She told them that the time of the Uratim had passed, but that any who wished to serve her new order with the same devotion they had with the old would be spared. Many of the Barethroats agreed, and as they outnumbered the higher-ranking Uratim, the barricades were brought down, and Marinth returned to the temple in which she was raised. This time, as a conqueror.
I think I have here after Alec Fed is a note for part 2, and so it's becoming easier for him to just accept drinking blood. I think he got over that pretty quickly, but he's pretty much embraced being a vampire at this point, fully.
And then this is when we can move on to part 2.
Part 2.
This shows up, yeah. So here we go. Now,
those that remained loyal to Uratim, to the Ureti, were given a chance, and when no chance. God, was I stoned when I wrote these? They were flayed alive, because flaying is crazy. Then the Banshee brought chains. Okay.
Hold on. Now we're getting into the next episode. Hold on.
Okay.
So here's I just love this little bit of
I think that's baller.
Flavor between the episodes where it goes like where we have Alaric here.
After I had fed, I returned to the crater where the fetid prince still stood. He resumed his story as if I had never left, for though his body stood before me, I could see in the reflection of his eyes that his mind was somewhere far away, somewhere long, long ago.
Those that remained loyal to the Uratim were brought before Marinth and again given a chance to renounce the old ways. When they refused, they were flayed alive. Then the drowned girl brought forth chains dripping with curses, and the loyalists were bound in them to be buried while they were still breathing.
Is that the creation of wraiths?
So
is that how you make wraiths?
Being tortured?
Because it sounds totally Hellraiser.
Bound in ethereal chains and tortured until
until
I wonder, will those said wraiths pop up later on in this episode?
I wonder.
Right.
I wonder. Banshee brought chains to create wraiths is what I have. The Cephamites were actually a historical people in real life. The Seraphan from Blood Omen, I think were based off the holy.
The Cephamites,
yeah. So I think but the Cephamites were like ancient ass people.
I'm very excited to be touring in Sipori here with you today. You might not know the name Sipori because that is a Hebrew name. Sometimes in English we refer to it as Sepphoris. Sipori is, I would say, one of the most exciting sites that you can visit in the Galilee today, which is very often overlooked. What's so exciting about it? This was the capital of the Jewish world. Basically, after Jerusalem for a time, it was the capital of the Galilee in the Roman period. This place was extremely famous. It's a place that's mentioned in many texts, or certainly mentioned many times in a lot of ancient Jewish texts. It's most famous for the fact that the Mishnah was compiled here in Sipori by Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, that's Rabbi Judah the Prince, at the end of the 2nd century. So when archaeologists are going to come back, almost 2,000 years later, excavating this place, we're going to find a lot of interesting connections between what we know about from texts to what you can actually find in the material remains of this place.
They were called the Cephamites, after the city in which their first temple was founded, and they were given their new doctrine. No longer must they venerate the Ureti. No longer must they shave all hair, bathe thrice daily, or master all poisons. Only one thing was to be held sacred, the will of Alalmat, and that would be conveyed to the Cephamites through Marinth, who received it from the drowned girl. Knowing that she could not hope to face El Sabaoth's champion in direct combat, Marinth began to weave a more subtle plot.
So Marinth begins plotting, and she gains the trust of King Nam. King Nam was also a real historical person in ancient like Mesopotamian times or whatever, ancient biblical times. I want to say King Nam is actually the name of the king who ruled over Temek, but like historically, what's the two place? Sodom and Gomorrah. I think King Nam ruled over Sodom and Gomorrah back then. Anyways, historical crap aside, the king was found face down, poisoned, and she named the most loyal to king sacrificed to the Sephamites. So she killed her and her Sephamites, killed the king, and
declared herself queen and sent his head to the burning one.
Yes, the burning one leads his army to the gates of Sephim. The burning one was the guest of honor from the armies of Sebeth, were suspicious, but they gave in anyway, and they were treated with lovely gifts and food and housing and everything. Like, hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. But it was all a deceptive plot. Marith invites the burning one to her bed and seduces him. So we get a little and then she poisons his army.
There we go. Yeah,
and poison didn't affect either of them because they're magical creatures. Discussed the surrender. The burning one was without fear, knowing that he's Jesus and stuff. So she seduces the burning one. All hail Alalmat. Marinth stabs the burning one with the death touch dagger I have here, a dagger blessed with Alalmat's power. But because the burning one cannot die, essentially, or is a Jesus figure, so he's immortal somehow. He starts to bleed and just like bleeding fire or something.
You missed over the bit there as well. The whole place was poisoned too.
Yes.
So everyone,
everybody,
her people, their people, Sebek, Sephamites, everyone was poisoned, gargling, dying on the floor while she plunged the dagger into the thing. But the dagger beneath Merith's pillow was another matter because he was immune to poison, blessed by Al-Almat and delivered to Merith for the task that was now at hand.
She plunged the death-touched dagger between the burning one's ribs, piercing his heart. As the life-blood of the demigod sprang forth, she placed a golden chalice to his chest, catching what she could of it and drinking deeply. Her own blood began to boil as it mixed with that of the burning one, and she fell, seizing as the divine essence flowed through her. The Sephamites burst into the chamber, praying to Alalmat to save their queen, and the body of the burning one burst into flames. Some flung themselves into the fires in an attempt to rescue their queen, and were consumed. Others fled outside the palace walls. Those that survived watched in despair as the palace was utterly consumed in the blaze. But then, they witnessed a single figure emerge on the balcony. Marinth stood alone, skin as pale as the moon, with the crimson of her conquest still upon her lips. With a wave of her hand, the fires of the palace were stifled. With another gesture, the bodies of the poisoned rose, no longer blinded by the conflict between city-states, but unified in their devotion to the Queen of the Dead.
Now let me bring out another little point to that. That was long, long ago in the history, right? If we take a little trip back, so we know what's going to happen in this episode, and we'll discuss it in a minute. But if we go back to Nightmares, what exactly happened there? The fetid prince plunged his blade into the heart of the burning one and broke it off.
Finish it.
It was finished long ago.
What is this?
That is for your priests to tell you. Those that survived to the north.
Why?
It is a message for your lord. Deadhaus rises.
History's repeating itself.
Yeah. Oh, that's a crazy. I'll put that.
This was the message directly to the burning one and Tal Sabaoth. Deadhaus rises. This is a message. I'm doing this to you again. I remember. I know. And we'll see why he knows.
The essence of her own merged with El Sabaoth, I have written down here.
Yep, that's literally with her own, granting her tremendous power, but it came at a terrible price.
She could feel the divine blood burning inside, consuming every drop of her own, draining her life away. In order to stave off an agonizing death, her blood had to be replenished. No matter how much she consumed, she could not sate the burning thirst within. Instead, it grew stronger, requiring greater and greater quantities of blood for just one more night of existence.
And that's hence why vampires constantly need to feed.
And why their blood going, because it's burning and consuming itself.
Yep. Vampires constantly need to feed. I'm going to jump here. I'm going to jump ahead.
Vampire, blood, cursed. 3 parts.
She passes the curse along from person to person, and it lessens for a time, but it never goes away.
Which is a beautiful explanation of why someone that's narcissistic and all power-consuming and hungry as a vampire would create another vampire.
Oh, yeah.
They have no real reason to.
You just want to stop it for yourself. So you.
Yeah.
So what do? You create another
a problem
vampire.
Shared is a problem halved.
You make another one. Yep.
Only for a little while.
So in order to quench this bloodthirst, she realizes that she needs to drink blood to keep it down always. And then she basically becomes Elizabeth Bathory at this point.
Like that's only at the bit when she's getting with the opulence. So it started, as you said there, with the pigs and the cattle and all that. And that wasn't enough. Then it was people
upside down,
and that wasn't enough. And then it was villages, and that wasn't enough until she was nearly emptying cities worth. And that's when they came and told her that if she done that it would ease it for a while. And she summoned her most loyal Cephamites, the priests.
That's crazy.
The most loyal priests.
12 of them, yes.
Yeah, and that also helped because then she had vampiric priests to go and push across the continent so that every corner of the world was covered in her priests.
Yeah, I have it written here. She can't stand the hunger. So she's like, I'm so over this crap. And then she stabs herself with the dagger. But then she doesn't die. And now she is undead. She doesn't die.
That's the fun part. She does die, but that didn't do anything. She's still...
she does die.
What's the beautiful one? She still persists.
Yes.
She is just now dead, but she still persists, and the hunger doesn't go away.
Is it because she's undead now? Is it because she drank the Burning One's blood because she got his power? That's why she becomes undead?
No, she becomes undead because Alalmot's not finished with her. Alalmot is the only one that can grant death. And she is immune to that.
Alalmot began to whisper, and in the flurry of thoughts, Marinth was promised a way to relieve the thirst if she would heed the call. She marched her undead armies on a path of carnage along the Ureti, slaughtering and feeding upon any she could find. Many tribes and armies rose to vanquish her, but all were crushed under her dark power. The sight of Marinth upon the battlefield, soaked red in the blood of the fallen, began to inspire terror across Temek. Tales began to spread of the Red Lady. She who was as beautiful as she was merciless. She who commanded the dead and devoured the living. And when so many thousands of souls had been severed from their bodies, Alalmot delivered upon its promise. The drowned girl appeared and said that Marinth's blood had been kindled by a spark of the All-Fire. This divine essence both empowered and devoured anything it touched. The thirst could never be cured, but it could be diluted. By allowing another who stood at the brink of death to drink her blood, the curse would be dispersed between the two of them. Its strength reduced in each for a time.
Akasha from Queen of the Damned has nothing on the Red Lady. Not even.
That's a good. Yeah, that's a great parallel.
Speaking of the 12, are they still alive? That's a really interesting question.
Makes you wonder.
It says also the 12 daggers of the first 12, those who would be some epic lore items.
Like each, you find imagine, I think that'd be a killer long-term, but not super long-term, a killer kind of a long-term quest where if you collect all 12 daggers or infinity daggers, let's say, you collect all 12 daggers, then
collect
you
12 daggers and win a prize.
Exactly, and then you can maybe forge them to create a super weapon, like a super sword. Like take 12 daggers, put them all together, and you have a really long freaking sword, right? Especially if they're typical dagger length, like 10 inches. So you collect all 12 daggers, and then you're able to forge a super pimp death sword or something, an ultima weapon almost from those 12 daggers. How cool would that be?
Epic.
In time, Merrin's thirst would grow unbearable once more, but she now possessed the knowledge to relieve it. When the need became too much to bear, she could pass the blood curse to another. And so she did, year after year, until her vampiric priesthood occupied every city left standing in the land of Temek, so that even those unconquered by her armies still bowed before her, and the reach of the Red Lady was absolute within the Garden of Many Rivers.
So basically, Alalmat got its wish. Until... Dun, dun, dun. Can you remember what happens there? Obviously,
she got another prophecy. I think she got another prophecy.
Someone was telling tales out of class. Hold on
I have rift between worlds. The drowned girl told her prophecy, tells her to go to Atan, the place of dragons.
Before we get to that was the other part.
Pale Temple.
She conquered the whole...
build the Pale Temple, right?
Yeah, she built the Pale Temple at the will of Alalmat, and at the bottom of the Pale Temple, then a portal was open to the other world, and out popped Kiva and the Banshees.
And through the Pale Temple of Alalmat was a rift open to the realm of the dead. And from its depths the Banshees came forth to commune with the Queen of the Dead, of which the drowned girl was one. They passed on secrets of great stones hidden beneath Melorum that could open the way to distant lands. They guided Marinth to these waystones and taught her how to open them. So, Marinth opened the ways, and her armies passed into foreign lands, conquering their peoples and plundering their wealth. The Temekian Empire became the dominant force on the continent of Isoth, and reigned uncontested for 5,000 years. Any who refused the worship of Alalmat were hung in the Red Lady's palace to fill her baths with blood, and their dying voices cried out to their god, a shrieking chorus of blood-drowned gurgles. From the throne of the sun, El Sabaoth gazed upon Marinth's treachery. The Ancient of Divine Fire poured its scorn upon those whose veins pulsed with its stolen essence, and vampires were weakened under the light of the sun. Then, one by one, Temekian territories were reclaimed by mortal resistance as the living learned to attack only by day.
And again, the Empire was a little bit too big to be able to hold all of it, because she'd spread it too far. And you see, another actual decent explanation as to why vampires are weakened by something.
Yes. It makes me want, did we learn who made the Waystones?
No, we haven't learned that yet.
We haven't learned that yet, right?
No, okay. They were ancient 5,000 years ago.
Or
not 5,000 years ago, they were ancient a long time ago.
Yeah.
What's this, 10,000 years before?
The Waystones are older than, they were there before the people, the Ureti. They were there before the people of the Ureti. So it's like Cleopatra's time, how when Cleopatra was around, the pyramids were ancient to Cleopatra. Yeah. As they are to us. So
actually, she's closer to us than
she was to the actual. Yeah, exactly. Which is bonkers to me. So that's sort of how I picture the Waystones and how old they are.
Here we go. And here's the next bit then. So we get back. We get back here, right?
Yeah. So she travels to Atan.
We get to this, right?
But she can't. She has to. Does she rebuild? She has to rebuild the ship. Or the ship that she was born on.
The drowned girl told Marinth that she must attempt to reach the continent of Atan. This could not be done by sailing west, as the mists of the nameless sea would strip from her all knowledge. But it could be attempted by embarking from Isoth's eastern shores. In truth, it was not to the shores of Atan that Alalmat sent his ascendant. but the sea of rage that lay between the continents. In that sea were many islands of jagged stone, and in those broken spires roosted dragons. Marinth tried crossing by ship, only to be nearly destroyed along with her vessel in a torrent of dragon's breath. It poured from the mighty guardian's mouth as a stream of white, and where it struck the ship, the boards unbound themselves, reforming into trunks and branches and leaves. It was not a ship that sank in the sea of rage that day, but the trees which had been cut down to build it.
Right.
So we'll talk about that right now, about how dragons work, but it makes me like...
This is a dragon. Not all dragons are like this.
This is a dragon, not all dragons.
He explains that. And just before we get to that, can you say the name?
Zlalox?
Good attempt. Yes,
Zlalox. So what if, and I've always loved this idea, and this is just me spitballing here, but the Sea of Rage with all the cliffs and the rocks and the jagged stuff, what if all the jaggedy rocks and everything within the Sea of Rage are just giant fossilized dragon scales?
That'd be really cool.
You know, like how lizards have like freaking pointy, or like Godzilla. Yeah. What if they were, you know, the Godzilla scales on the back going down like that?
Literally his spines.
Yes. Yeah. What if it was what if they're all just fossilized dragon spines because, you know, dragons killed each other or whatever, and they all just fell in ancient fossilized dragon stuff? That's just, I mean, like, imagine if all of Atan was just built on the bodies of fossilized dragons.
I mean, it could be.
Like, I think that'd be killer. You know, dragons have been around for so long, and they're so ancient that they fossilized themselves and made a whole friggin' island built off the literal backs of big, humongous, bigger than we can possibly imagine dragons.
I know. We'll see about that, because there might be something in that later.
Marinth drifted to one of the Spire Islands as mist and reformed herself, but the dragon pursued her. It knew of the trickery of changing forms through mist, the sorcery of the nameless god, which Marinth had borne from Atan as an infant. For days and nights the dragon hunted Marinth through the broken mountains of its island, yet though she tried many times to face her foe, she could do it no harm, for whatever wound she laid upon it was undone by the dragon's power. All dragons are beings of immense magical energy. As such, they draw the flow of magic to them, even as eggs, and they are shaped in their eggs by whichever aspect flows through them. The dragon that pursued Marinth was aligned to the temporal aspect. He was Zlalox, a prince among dragons, and his breath turned the stone that had struck to molten rivers, not by heat, but by pushing it back through time. Had Marinth been any other vampire, Zlalox would have vanquished her, but Alalmot intervened. From the many shadows of the island, the shattered spirits of the Urateam came forth. They were hollow horrors, cloaked in darkness, in robes of serpentine form that melded with the shadows. Their cursed chains bound their fragmented souls between realms, existing only partly in each. And with those chains, they lashed themselves to Zlalox. The dragon roared out streams of temporal power, but the Urateam wraiths flickered in and out of being, vanishing from the path of the breath and reappearing elsewhere in the same instant. Then, gazing into the future, Zlalox split his breath so that it struck both where the wraiths were and where they would be. Those that were touched by the breath were locked in time, and to this day, their shadows linger on that island, unmoving. The wraiths called out to Marinth then, demanding that she strike, and so she moved in a blur while the dragon faced the Urateam, stabbing through his hide with her death-touched dagger. But this time, when Zlalox tried to pull himself back through time to undo his wounds, a part of the wraiths that was still bound to him was pulled back with him. Each of these wraiths experienced the horror of their deaths again, and through their cursed chains this horror was shared with Zlalox, who fell in bloody ruin upon the rocks.
You see, here's the problem. So when she went to face the dragon, she was able to get at him, because when he struck the wraiths were chained to him, right? He hit them. They were locked in place, but also part of them was pushed back through time. So that's why they exist there eternally. The problem with this is they now were reliving their deaths over and over and over again. Do you get that, Calypso?
Yes.
They're reliving their deaths over and over again, and that was being channeled to Zlolox through their chains. So he was feeling the repeated death of every one of those wraiths,
Oh, that's
all
bonkers.
at once, perpetually.
I didn't catch that. But
Yeah.
yes, so Zlolox is, what do I have written here? Dragons are magical creatures of aspect, and they channeled it. White was time. Zlolox was the mighty time dragon I have written here in my notes, and he was a prince among dragons.
He tried to pull him back through time.
Dragons are so magical, and they are so full of whatever magical aspect that they happen to channel whenever they're born into this earth from their egg.
They're basically very magical, powerful beings, and the flavor of magic is based on whatever one is drawn to them when they're in their eggs. So they start off as neutral, and it's whatever essence comes to them.
So white is time. So you have like the oh my gosh, the Captain Planet of dragons. Like they're earth, wind, fire, water, time.
Oh, do you think there's one that maybe possesses all?
I mean, possibly. I would like to think so, because this is my little theory when listening to this. The dragons are the pillars.
So
like they're not actually the pillars, but they're aspects of
you think
every pillar.
You think we could have a Tiamat-like dragon with 9 heads, where each head is representative of an aspect?
Yes, I totally believe that there is a Tiamat, a balanced dragon, a time dragon, a death dragon, a dimension dragon, a nature dragon. Every pillar is a dragon. Like there's because they are like, because let's say that dragons were the origin of the earth, or origin of Malorum, right? There's a Malorum dragon, a Ticklac-Clicklex,
Ticklac-Clicklex. We're getting into Skyrim now.
Yeah, I guess. Is that Skyrim?
Hey, at least we're not in the Witcher territory. Keep going.
Oh, thank God. Yeah. Dang, I'll put the timer. So like imagine that. Like dragons are so ancient, hypothetically in my little theory here, they're so ancient that the island of Atan was built off their fossilized backs, and the entire thing is just a bunch of dragons all mushed together to create land. They were the original origin of the earth.
Or maybe there was one big dragon that died.
Maybe,
one big old dragon, and it's literally his body.
Yes, maybe, or could even be the balanced dragon that I'm talking about. And every single dragon is an aspect of magic, because they are the balance. They are everything all wrapped up. They are nature personified in physical form, and aspects. They are magic personified in physical form as dragons. And Zlolox here, a prince among dragons, is the time dragon.
But the giant spiders underground are already also pillars. No, they're representative of the pillars, I would say. Also not already, but the giant spiders underground are also pillars. Well, not really. It's part of the pillar.
Or we could even go that each pillar. No, that doesn't make sense. I was going to say each pillar has their own aspect of magical giant animal. So spider would be the green one, whichever one that was. I forgot already. Necrotic. Right? Necrotic. Thank you. So the spider would be necrotic.
Deadhaus.
Exactly. So it makes sense that dragons were there first. They're so magical that they just happen to form and turn into these monster physical beings, because it represents their power, and they're so powerful. So they turn into a powerful figure or symbol, a dragon, and then everything else sort of branches off from that. Giant spiders, giant eagles, whatever. Pick your animal. Probably a giant bunny or something maybe in there, just like that. So nature first before people. People later, magic diluted. Magic to people come later through whatever, unless you're specially born like Marinth is, or
We'd explain why we don't have a ton of mages and stuff like that.
Exactly.
No, I get you. And then we get one of my favorite reveals coming now.
Yes, Dragonth Marinth fight multiple times. She can't. Okay, did Marinth come from Atan? Did I miss that part?
Well, she came from the Nameless Sea.
Okay.
The other place, yeah. So
that's where the ship came from. It was made. Was the ship made of dragon bone as well?
Never says.
Okay.
We don't know. So the dragon gets wrecked and he gets knocked onto the rocks by Merenth because she stabs him whenever the guys had the chains on her.
Merenth approached the fallen guardian and saw herself reflected in his eyes like pools of silver. Not as she was, but as she had been, an infant on a blackened boat. As Zlalox lay dying, she forced open his mouth and slipped inside, spilling her own blood, pouring the curse out. And so the dark gift was given to Zlalox, overwhelming the temporal aspect with the necrotic. His immortal life was sundered in immortal death, and by the powers inherited from Merenth, his form gave way to blackened mist. And he emerged in the guise of man, to be known thereafter as the Fetid Prince.
Bum, bum, bum.
This pleased Alalmot, who intended even then that I should become his ascendant. Now, beholden to the Ancient of Death, I returned with Merenth to the continent of Isoth.
And there we go. Yep, he's a dragon, which explains the teeth.
Yes.
And explains why he can see through time.
So the other question is, did he become human form because of Merenth and the blood thing?
Yeah,
or
no.
dragons able to just turn into humans like other mythology?
No, that's because of the vampiric power is given by Merenth. So she's got Nameless, and she's got Deadhaus, and she's got
Burning one.
The burning one, Empyrean.
Whatever.
Empyrean. So she's got those three powers within her, mixed together and gifted with all the powers and knowledge from the god of the dead. She's able to transform because she gave that power to Zlalox. Zlalox can transform.
For her, mist, bats. She can turn to bats, mist, wolves.
That's the only reason Zlalox can transform into the Fetid Prince, is because he is a. Remember, they asked him, "It's like, are you a vampire or are you a demigod?" He says, "No more than I'm a vampire." He says, "No," like, because he's not really anything now.
So
he's
because she's the Trinity rule of threes, her giving her blood to Zlalox, which is really cool that we learned his freaking name. Does that also give him the Trinity rule, the rule of three?
All vampires have the Trinity, because don't forget, do you remember?
Okay, you're right.
Do you remember when Falk sniffed the blood of the vampires? Like,
Alaric von Beller is losing his blood.
What do you know of it?
Bring it to us, and we shall see. Closer. 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 Take off the cap, vampire.
How do you know this?
We can smell it. Old curse. 3 pieces.
Oh, stars above.
Revelation here, huh?
Yeah. Oh, man. He returns with her and helps defeat everyone and destroys the river of the Ureti and corrupts the river. Oh, yeah. The whole point of this was so she could perform a ritual to get to the Waystones, because she was having trouble getting to the Waystone.
He knew a secret Waystone.
Oh,
that
okay.
It was a secret Waystone in Mount Manubaku.
She sought my counsel on the continent of Atan, and though I had never flown its skies, I knew of a Waystone that linked it to Isoth. Beneath an ancient pool at the summit of Mount Manubaku, the source of the Ureti, this Waystone lay hidden. But unlike those that led to other worlds, this Waystone was not opened by the sky. Its key was blood.
7 days. She slept for 7 days. She starved herself for 7 days and 7 nights.
That's it. She was researching it, because she initially went up there with 300 people and sacrificed them, but it didn't work because the water just washed away the blood. It meant nothing.
This Waystone lay hidden, but unlike those that led to other worlds, this Waystone was not opened by the sky. Its key was blood. So Merenth gathered a sacrifice of mortals from her lands and took them to the summit. Yet though her mouldering warriors opened the throats of 300 mortals and cast them into the pool, its waters washed away their blood before it could reach the Waystone below. There weren't enough mortals in all the kingdoms of Isoth to provide the key to the stone. But Merenth would not be denied. She gathered all the arcane tomes and mystic scrolls that had been raided from other lands and locked herself in the Pale Temple for 7 days and 7 nights, taking no blood. When she emerged, Merenth's eyes were wild with hunger and purpose. But she did not feed. Instead, she took the form of mist, and from this mist came forth many bats that flew to the frosted peak of Monuboku. There she cast off her winged form and stood as the queen of the dead once more. She beheld the moon, ripe and swollen with ivory light, and she began to sway on her feet to some unheard rhythm. She rocked and hummed to herself, until her rocking became a spinning dance, and her humming rose to chants that echoed from the mountaintop. In her dance, she tore into her flesh with her claws, and her body glistened with her own blood. The Red Lady whirled and flung her blood against the snow in swirling runes that were set to glow as she named them in song. And as she carved the final sign upon her flesh, the sign of Alolmot, so too it was carved into the face of the moon. The night was made crimson then, as the gash of Alolmot on the moon poured blood, and the frosted peak of Monuboku shone as a jagged fang, reddened under the light of the first blood moon. Its power permeated Malorum, and Merenth channeled it through her spell. The source of the Ureti was transmuted into blood, and soon the sacred river of Temek, the source of its wealth and power, flowed as a gaping wound toward the nameless sea. The stone below drank deeply, and the way was opened. Merenth stepped into the blood, felt the pull of the current from the open stone, and let herself be swept away into the land of Aton. Now, every year on the day this spell was cast, the moon still bleeds. But the Red Lady has never returned.
It says Alaric. They talk about the ritual, and Alaric asks. I think it's interesting that Alaric asks about doing the ritual again. And Amarak says, "No, it's not going to happen, dude. It would impede our war that's going on right now.
It would take too long for me to replicate the spell and too much power distracts from our current war." He says, "What about you? You're a being of immense magical power," I asked the prince. To which he replies, "It is not the will of the Lalmot that we travel to Aton yet. One war at a time."
Because that's their goal right now, is to oppose the Awakening. We'll worry about the Red Lady later. I think it's great. I love the delivery from Bo here, where he laughs, and like, you can, even though this image here isn't moving really, you can hear and see the smile on this character's face. It's so good, because Alaric tells his story of how he got turned into a vampire.
And what of the one that turned you? What do you owe him?
But recently, an Inquisitor was traveling with an Ashen Templar in pursuit of a vampire. They uncovered its lair and waited what dawn to strike. I never knew him. I had attempted something similar some months ago, but was unsuccessful. It was my intention then to acquire a sample of blood, but when it became clear that was impossible, I tried to burn the creature. I wrote of the ensuing disaster that cost the lives of many knights. But where I failed, the other Inquisitor succeeded, or rather, the Templar did. The Ashen Templar subdued him, and an Inquisitor extracted a sample of his blood that was delivered to me. I fed it in my lab, grew it, and ultimately injected it at the hour of my death. And so now I sit here, in the ruins of my laboratory. Blood seeping from my wound, strength fading. I take one last look at the work around me. The tools, the materials, the blood. The blood. Vampiric blood. The process is begun. The needle is in my vein. I can see the blood moving through the tubes now. It's entering me now. It burns! But it's like fire when it hits my veins. Burning inside. Pain. Entire body. If I rise, will avenge. Can't feel heart. Visions. Visions of woman.
The Ashen Templar subdued him?
The terrible grin of many fangs spread across the prince's face.
Or is that what the Thasians were allowed to believe?
I tried to recall the day the delivery reached my lab. The words of the report. It seems so far away. What are you saying?
Look closely.
The fetid prince said, tapping the claws of his middle and index fingers underneath his eyes. I stepped forward, gazing into eyes that reflected me in pools of silver. And there I saw the fetid prince, reflected back through silver pools of my own. Not as he was then, but as he had been those years ago, lying as if dead before the Templar, allowing the Inquisitor to draw his blood.
Dun,
So,
dun.
the fetid prince made Alaric. He's technically royalty.
He's technically royalty. So it begs. So all the stuff we see with Alaric is that his eyes are red. Are his eyes actually silver this entire time, or are they just red?
No, his are red. He doesn't gain the silver.
Oh, he doesn't gain the silver
because
eyes.
That's for the fetid prince because he's temporal. So the vampires would be.
So that's the other question. That's the other question. It got me thinking about the eyes. Eyes are the windows to the soul.
Yeah.
Or the undead soul at this point. And we know that because the fetid prince is a time dragon, I guess silver or white is the color of time, or the magical color of time, the aspect of time, right?
Okay.
Vampire, blood moon, red eyes. Marinth's eyes were green, and they were glowing green eyes and stuff. What is that? Is that a symbol of essence and everything because of the green, or does it mean something more? And when she gains her powers, do her eyes change as well? You know, like if Alaric evolves,
I feel that Marinth
wasn't
wasn't just a normal human the same way as Lolox wasn't a normal guy. He was, as you said, a temporal dragon, so his eyes shone like that. Marinth's eyes weren't green. The way it looks, they weren't green as in human green. There's clearly something there.
Like
and she comes from somewhere else as something else. Now, while she was technically immortal, there was clearly things at play there that guided her, and somehow Alalmot took her from them and used her as a pawn in its game, brought her across the chessboard, crowned her a queen, and then was using that to lead its armies because it knew it was going to send her to Atan, but before she went, it needed her to go and get the fetid prince because he was to take her place as the ascendant for Deadhaus while she left.
And it makes you wonder, oh crap, I lost my thought. It makes you wonder, nope, gone again. It makes you wonder, are there other people exactly like Marinth? Because Marinth wasn't a vampire when she had powers. She was human. She was still human when she could turn to mist, probably turn to bats, turn to wolves, all that stuff, shapeshift. She was human.
Vampires didn't technically exist then. She created vampires. Vampires are a mixture of her blood, the will and power of Alalmot, and the will and power of, again, the blood was kindled by Empyrean. So it's actually 3.
So she had magical blood before being a vampire. Becoming a vampire or something. Yeah. So is the Nameless, the planet or whatever that we see from
Show me.
I approached the outer bounds of the luminous orrery, to the orbs that bore the mark of a ram's horns. Harrowspex, I said, placing my hands over the orb.
The Nameless God, whose house is Prodigium.
Is that where she comes? Does she come from a literal another dimension?
No, it says there that she came from Atan or something, doesn't it?
Okay,
she came from the other side of the Nameless Sea.
Oh, there it is, Atan.
That would also explain why, as a baby, she can't remember it.
Yeah. So what
will we run into? Baby or what?
Will we run into other society members from where she comes from? You know, will we meet them? Are they long dead now? Are they just erased from existence? Are they immortal? You know,
we're going to have to go.
Something.
we're on Azoth. Atan is the other continent, right?
Yeah.
So we're
yeah.
gonna have to go there. So it's two continents. So like it's not like it's another country. So if you go west, that's from the Nameless Sea. You'll forget everything. And then on the east, it was the Sea of Rage. That's where she passed through. Like that's where she met Slaloxon, right? So she went through the Waystone to Atan, and whatever happened there, she basically returned to where she came from. That's going to be the difference.
She returns home. I'm looking for the map. I have the map somewhere.
You can always thank Varric for that and just go on to the Deadhaus wiki. Shout out to that deadhaus-sonata.fandom.com/wiki.
Okay, I don't have the map, so I'm totally going to actually go to the Deadhaus wiki.
You can pull the map up there. I have it open, but always shut up.
There we go. Oh yeah, new updated map. Cool.
Oh yeah.
All right.
And there for you, don't forget. You had the nameless god, which was Harrowspex, whose house is Prodigium.
Thank you. All right, so we have the Comson Ocean. We have the Crimson Ocean, Sea of Dreams, Sea of Rage, the Dead Sea, and then we have the Immortal Ocean that leads us into Atan. And did I miss
shout out there, Varric. Here we go.
So, the lake.
Throwing that in the chat there. Varric has been the creator and curator of all the lore for this, so that everyone can do their homework and not have to rely on memory, bad memory.
Yes. So we have all of yes, my bad memory. All of us saw Sea of Rage, Crimson Ocean, so then we go over to Atan here. I'll put this in post, everybody, don't worry. And nothing, thanks, Dennis, nothing is marked. We have the Grim Expanse is like that area, and there's a dragon over it and everything. It's super cool. And then we have the salted lands. Is that what it is? Is that what it says on the map? The blasted lands. The blasted lands because of dragons. Salted. Sorry, I'm blind, guys. I don't have my glasses. And I had a point to all of this, but of course I immediately just forgot it. Something ocean, people, origins, wherever she comes from. I don't know.
Basically, she's gone back to Atan. You want to know, is there more like her there?
Yes, thank you.
I don't know if they're exactly like her, because she would have been picked or groomed or whatever through the god of the dead, because she wasn't just like some random person in Atan where they just threw a baby on a boat and kicked it towards,
No, I think she was sent there for, well, apart from, prophecy and gods and all that stuff, I think she was sent there because her people, did her people who put her on the boat leave her to die, or did they?
Or was there people on the boat that died?
Yeah,
we don't know. All we know is the boat was empty. It was completely empty. It was black as night. It had a ram's head on its stern, and it had crimson sails. That's all we know. And considering that's not the color of the Nameless, what's that about?
Yeah, exactly. It makes me wonder also, or well, not wonder, but there's also some really good parallels here. So, Atan, land of dragons. Dragons are lizard creatures, essentially. She ends up at the Ureti, which worships snakes, who you could look at as like devolved forms of dragons and lizards, but also there's the two fangs of snakes. So you got that cyclical symbolism of vampires and fangs and that whole thing, and vampires or snakes spread.
I have a weird feeling it was a Lalmot. It was a Lalmot though that done the thing that pushed the snakes into guiding her and pushing her back up. That's what
Possibly.
The Lalmot seems to have been a guiding hand in all of this.
Yeah, because like the snakes lead poison. Poison is death, and a Lalmot is death, right? So you have this whole thing of it was almost like it was meant to be, because snakes, you can die from snakes. You essentially, with this snake cult, you essentially have like they're almost a death cult, because they easily accept it. You drink.
Oh yeah, they're clearly a death cult.
Yeah, so
Or here's another one for
Symbolism,
you,
guys.
just to throw a spanner into the works. What if the nameless god was trying to get its foothold in, and it had done all of this thing carefully crafted with Merenth? Everything was going well until Kiva appeared in the ocean, and they basically stole someone else's chess piece.
That's a very good point. Oh man, you got me thinking now.
And then the nameless god's just been throwing temper tantrums, but it has very little power because it has very little foothold in Malorum to be able to do anything.
Do you think that? I think we talked about this in our way back when we probably talked about this. Do you think that the nameless isn't powerful, and Merenth was kind of like the last
of her people, so to speak?
Yeah, either the last of her people, or like the last chance almost for the nameless god to
could be
get named again, because as we know within the Deadhaus, the world of Deadhaus, names and true names are important, incredibly important. And this nameless god was either so terrible and so great or so amazing even, or people just rejected whatever the nameless god's religion was, that they chose, oh, don't speak its name, it doesn't have a name and is nameless. And because the name is gone, the power is lost, and Merenth might have been the last hurrah to get the nameless god back to power, but it failed.
It could also do the exact same thing in the exact opposite direction. Yeah. So you're saying that if no one knows its name, it has no power. But by that same token, when we look at true names, if no one can know its name, no one could ever have power over it.
Oh, very good point. Very good point. But then you have that tough balance of either it's really powerful because it doesn't have a name, the thing you just said. So it's how do you really balance that out?
What side of the coin does it fall on, Calypso?
Exactly.
No, genuine question. There's two sides to the coin of all of the houses. They fall into either order or chaos. Which one is the nameless?
Well, what if it's... Oh, crap. See, what if it's balance? What if the nameless is balance?
No, it's not. Uno reverse card. The red lady is the death of the nameless by giving it a name. Oh, could be. She strikes me more. She'll just go straight up to it and stick a sword through it. But yeah. And then drink its blood. But,
do you think that's the other thing? Do you think that the nameless gains more power if, as people forget things?
Again, it could be. Would that be why it's called the nameless?
Yeah. Do you think that recording history is a combatant to the nameless?
It could be, because you think about it, like maybe it doesn't have the power to kill things itself directly, but maybe if it makes you forget, it takes the power away from its enemies. If no one can remember Elsabaoth, no one can worship Empyrean, therefore it loses all its power.
Do you think, I think maybe instinct has a lot to do with this too. Merenth almost died from drinking the poison, turns into mist as a healing form. That was instinctual. Do you think that... Oh, crap, I lost my thought. Do you think... Nope, it's gone.
Vark's asking, the nameless worms used to be much smaller. I think that's more of a food issue. I don't think that's a nameless worm per se. I think he just meant it was a worm that they didn't even bother to name, rather than a nameless worm. And then the things... Because don't forget, they called it the Clatterclack, so they gave it a name.
That's true. Do you think Merenth power instinct, she was sent on the boat so she could become a nameless one? And by giving her a name of Merenth, even though it's probably not her true name, because when, I don't know, maybe when you have a baby, you name it, right? Mm-hmm. So do you think by them giving Merenth a name, another name that's not whatever her true name could possibly be, if Merenth isn't her true name, that gave her power, that gave her power back? And she was sent on the ocean to forget all of her power or lose her power when she was a baby or whatever, and not actually inherently know it. But her instinct kicked in and gave her power because they named her Merenth.
Could be. Could be. This is going to be a lot of interesting lore later down the line.
Yeah.
And that, everyone, is the source part 1 and part 2. The source of vampirism, the source of the fetid prince, the source of Alaric, the source of basically Deadhaus and the source of all the woes of that continent for the next few thousand years.
It'll be interesting to see what it really will be interesting to see what the future holds and how all of this will come into play later or be expanded upon or something.
This is going to get very, very interesting, he says, pretending he doesn't know what the next episodes entail. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of good stuff coming along down the line in this. And this one was very lore heavy, so I think it did take a lot for the community to be able to like digest it. Because I know some of the guys had to listen 2, listen 3, listen 4 times, and then come back to it, because this was one of those ones. And I suggest everyone go listen to it. Don't forget, go to check out the Deadhaus Sonata official, but you can listen to it literally anywhere. If you want it on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, anywhere, you go listen to it, because we could never do justice to the depth of the writing that's done in it. But it is a massive lore dump, and it was phenomenal to listen to. And just Bo's voice is just chilling.
Oh yeah. Pro tip, everybody. I've figured this out. Pro tip: put on your headphones, go to Spotify, pull it up, and then go to YouTube, mute the video, and then just pull up the video for the visuals. Like the compression, the audio compression on YouTube is awful. Okay. So Spotify, it sounds way better, especially if you have a good pair of headphones. So it kicks way more, man. Like seriously, get in bed, close your eyes, put on Spotify, turn the dang thing on with a good pair of headphones. Thank me later, man. Thank me later. Shout out to Felipe for all the sound design. And
shout out to Felipe and all the guys working on it, because they don't get enough of a shout out. But it was an immense amount of work that gets done, because in that you just get lost in the story. You get lost in the sauce, so to speak, and that's a lot of hard work. I don't think people realize how much hard work goes into putting all of those.
Oh yeah, it's difficult. George, to talk to you for a second, George. Hey, George, I totally get it, man. Not to toot my own horn, I have a YouTube channel. It's all down here. Follow me. I did a really quick excerpt of reading one of the Shadow books, which I've been listening to and rereading myself. So I totally understand where you're coming from, George, with recording, with editing, and just trying to make it sound good. Like I get why voice actors, if they aren't already professional audiobook narrators and have someone edit for them, why recording and editing it themselves is incredibly annoying. It was really annoying.
I don't think people realize how difficult it is to read, like to read professionally.
Oh yeah, to try
not just you reading to yourself or reading to your children or your partner or whatever like that, but actually reading so that someone would listen. Like one of my favorite examples, who's like a professional on that front, but a lot of people would know, be like Stephen Fry.
Stephen
Fry
can
great. Read. He can professionally read, where you will sit down and engage, because I'm sure everyone had a teacher in school. All of you have had one teacher somewhere or another. Might have been a math teacher, might have been like a science teacher, something that the minute they started talking with their voice, you just tuned out. You couldn't help it. Even if you really wanted to listen, it just turned off. You just couldn't, because their voice didn't suit it. That's where it's quite difficult,
That was one of my English teachers when I was in high school. She was like 60 years old, but she was a smoker all of her life, so she had smoker voice. And like she'd be teaching you English, but she'd like see spot run, and it was just total like smoker, like Batman voice.
And where was that, Calypso? I need the accent. Where were you
this
in
was,
school?
This was in Florida, man. But she was from
in Florida. So is it Florida voice, or where was she from?
Whatever Florida voice is, I don't know.
Smoky Florida woman in her 60s.
Smoky Florida woman in her 60s.
Spot run.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Yeah, I could see how you tune out to that. I had one. I'm not going to name anything like that, but they were a math teacher, and he was also the PE teacher. So he was really a PE teacher, and probably because of like time and budgets, whatever, he was forced to do math as well. And they had a really cruel nickname for him, which was very unfortunate, but it was basically calling him boring in math. And I fell asleep in maths before with him, because Lord help, he tried, but he just had one of those. He spoke very monotone voice that didn't go very well with anyone talking. It was very monotone. Now, it was perfectly fine when he was teaching sport. Now, I didn't play a lot of sports, but lads here, GA, hurling and all like that, no bother. He could shout and roar, no problem. It all worked well for the sports. But when he was talking normally in class, oh my God, the gods did not help us. I literally was there one time and I was sitting and the guy, like, because we had desk where there's like 2 people to a desk. Not like in the States where you get your own bloody desk.
Oh, man.
So,
2 people to a desk?
Yeah, it's annoying, especially banging show. But anyway, so we're sitting there and like we're trying to pay attention. Because like I have a clue what's going on. So you're trying to pay attention to math class. And I could feel my head doing this. And the guy that was sitting beside me, he's like that, the other side and all. And I literally just heard a bang and I looked. His head had fallen out of his hand and smacked the desk. And the teacher looked around and was like, what was that? Everyone in the class when he shouted.
Oh, that's too good. That's too good.
Nothing. Like he literally fell asleep. We all kept doing that, like kind of half nodding off. Couldn't even pay attention for 40 minutes with that voice. So yeah, having a good voice and knowing how to use it is very important.
Oh, absolutely.
So you're not getting hired again. If that dude doing an audiobook, he's not doing a second one.
Yeah. You know? So it's a good thing we have a great freaking cast who all have like voices from the gods. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Gifts of the Lolmot.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
And with that, we'll have to wrap it up here. Otherwise, Calypso is going to be editing for another 2-hour episode again.
Oh, yeah. This, hey, I'll try to get this one done pretty quickly also, guys. But yes, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. All the socials down below. Feel free to, like, if you Google Deadhaus Whispers or Deadhaus Sonata, chances are you'll find us the moment you do. We're probably everywhere at this point.
We've had the ticker running the whole time, so if you've paid
exactly.
the slightest bit of attention down here, you can follow us anywhere. Don't forget to check out the official Deadhaus Sonata stuff at deadhaussonata.com, and you can check us out by just putting in Deadhaus Whispers. We've done our best to make sure we're available absolutely everywhere, although if there's anywhere we're missing, hit us up and let us know.
Yes, and with all of that said, we shall see you in the next one, everybody.
Thank you. Much appreciation from us, yes. For listening to Deadhaus Whispers.
Ah, yes. Thank you for listening to Deadhaus Whispers with Faceless Mike and Calypso. They're lovely people. Don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll find you.
Hello, fellow fans of Deadhaus. Follow Deadhaus Whispers, or else.
From the creator of Legacy of Kain and Eternal Darkness, Deadhaus Sonata is a narrative-driven action RPG in which you take the role of the undead and fight against the living. Visit us at www.deadhaussonata.com for updates on development. That's Dead, H-A-U-S, Sonata.com.